Alright, guys. I know some of you might be getting tired of this story, but even if you are, I think it's important that we do not relent on covering it, and we do not relent on talking about it. Never has there been a bigger weak spot on Trump's political career. I mean, think about it. Like, you ever play a Resident Evil game, and you fight one of the bosses that has, like, a big glowing yellow or orange weak spot that you're meant to shoot at until it pops? Like, this is Trump's big glowing orange weak spot. We would be fools not to take advantage of it, okay? While this window is open, we need to cultivate as much distrust and hate towards Donald Trump among his own base as we possibly can. And when I say his base, I don't mean the QAnon crazies, which make up a disconcerting amount of MAGA, but the normies who ended up opting to vote Trump over Kamala Harris, or the people who just chose not to vote at all, who we also need to convince. We need to show them that not keeping this guy or his constituents out of office is the biggest mistake this country could possibly make. And the Epstein files thing is Trump going back on a very blatant, clear, open, popular promise. It really makes him look bad. The way he's handled the controversy, he's been digging the hole deeper and deeper, and I don't know how much deeper it could possibly get at this point. So, with that said, I was surprised to find out that today a new headline dropped that has everybody freaking out. Apparently, the DOJ confirmed, told Trump that his name is among many names in the Epstein files, which do in fact, as it turns out, exist. Interesting how Trump's been saying there are no Epstein files the last couple weeks, and it turns out not only are there, but the DOJ confirmed told him that his name is in there. None of us should be surprised by this. We all knew Trump's name was in the Epstein files. I think it's been confirmed for a while that his name is in the Epstein files, even before this. But now we know that the DOJ told him, and he knew his name was in there. For months now, he's known. And so it explains why he is so scared to release them unless it's an edited version. And so people have been jumping on this. We cannot relent on this. Trump is weaker now than he's ever been politically. If we decide that we're tired of talking about this and just move on, we're handing the biggest victory possible over to Trump and just snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. This might be the beginning of the end for Trump. As long as we play our cards right, it could be the beginning of the end for Trump's political career. So let's find out more. Let's lock in. I got a video here that's going to explain all the deets to us.
Wall Street Journal is now reporting that Justice Department officials told President Trump in May that his name was among many names mentioned in the Epstein files. This is something the White House is now labeling as, quote, fake news, end quote. Our panel will be here to weigh in, but we do want to start with CNN Chief Legal Affairs Correspondent Paula Reed. We also have our Chief Congressional Correspondent Manu Raju on Capitol Hill. Paula, I want to go first to you, and especially this Wall Street Journal headline, which is that the Justice Department told Trump in May that his name is among many in the Epstein files, that he was told at this meeting the files contained what officials felt was unverified hearsay about many people, including Trump, who had socialized with Epstein in the past, some of the officials said. One of the officials familiar with the documents said that they contain hundreds of other names. We are in the course of...
It's not even just about Trump trying to cover up the fact that his name is in the Epstein files, by the way. Hundreds of other names? All these hundreds of other names, Trump decided we didn't deserve to see them. And it's not just that he decided we, the left, didn't deserve to see them. He decided his own supporters, the people who voted for him, a fair few maybe on the grounds solely that he would release these files, and he lied to them. He decided they didn't deserve it, I guess. I'd be pissed too. For once, I feel like in our rhetoric, I see the chuds, the MAGA folks, the right-wing voters, as kind of the victims here, you know? Like, this, obviously, I told you so would be easy. But this is just like, they have every right to be pissed. You know, if they're mad about this, then I am on board with them being pissed. They are right to be pissed. Trump lied to them blatantly, and they finally figured it out. You know, I'm not going to call them out and say, oh, now you figured it. You know, finally, they did it, you know? Nah, fuck them, should have used their brains. Sure, but, like, if you want to get them, like, rah, 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 fuck Trump, and not rah, 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 fuck lefties, you know, they're like wild animals right now. Don't piss off the wild animals. You know, get them real angry at the guy you want them to attack, okay? You don't actually have to like them.
Of reporting this out, obviously. But what else do we know? And it also comes in the context of these court decisions today.
Let's start with the Wall Street Journal reporting what we have not independently confirmed. We have received some statements from the Justice Department saying, quote, the DOJ and the FBI reviewed the Epstein files and reached the conclusion set out in the July 6th memo. Nothing in the files warranted further investigation or prosecution. We have filed a motion in court to unseal the underlying grand jury transcripts. We'll get to that in a second. As part of our routine briefing, we made the president aware of the findings. So in that statement from the Attorney General and the Deputy Attorney General, they are not directly addressing the most significant part of this, which is the reporting that Trump was told he was mentioned multiple times in these files. Now, there's also
apparently we're going to get them. Apparently now, even if Trump tries to stop it, we're going to get the Epstein files now. But yeah, I don't know. Redux says cap. I kind of call cap. I think a lot of people are calling cap right now.
Also a statement from the FBI Director Kash Patel. It says the memo released on July 6 is consistent with a thorough review conducted by the FBI and DOJ. The criminal leakers and fake news media tries tirelessly to undermine President Trump with smears, lies,
leakers.
And this story is no different. I'm reading that because it suggested to me that the FBI director there is calling the story a lie, but that's not actually specifically what he's saying. And I think all of this is really important, Casey, because if we go back to the first Bondi-related Epstein controversy, you may remember she held an event to great fanfare at the White House where she handed out binders of what was promised to be new information related to the Epstein investigations. And a lot of MAGA-aligned influencers were very disappointed because most of what she handed out was already in the public record. But sources at that time told me a lot of the frustration from the White House with Bondi.
I'm sure, Pam, like they were surprised that the right-wing influencers were smart enough to have known so much of that information was already public. I think they expected, like, this is all for show, and everyone here knows it's for show, so, like, we don't actually have to put out anything substantial. I think that's what they assumed, but I think they forgot that there are a fair few right-wing influencers, while they are getting paid and they're making lots of money, they're also true believers, and they want to see those damn Epstein files.
In that event was the fact that they didn't redact Trump's name, even though these were records that were already well known. They were flight logs. There was a lot of frustration around Bondi's handling of that incident. So it tracks with what the Wall Street Journal is reporting here, that they would be very sensitive about any mention of Trump's name in subsequent files. Now, you also asked about the potential release of grand jury information, because we know.
Yeah. Paula, let me pause you just 1 second there, because I do want to make sure that we get this White House statement on the record as we continue to talk about this. So here was White House Communications Director Stephen Chung responding to this. He says, quote, the fact is that the president kicked him, Epstein, out of his club for being a creep. This is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and liberal media, just like the Obama Russiagate scandal, which President Trump was right about. Of course,
it's so Orwellian how they all speak like Trump now, you know? Like, if I read this in a Trump voice, you would never question that it was a Trump quote, right? And it's from Stephen Chung.
The fact is that the president kicked him out of his club for being a creep. This is nothing more than a continuation of the fake news stories concocted by the Democrats and the liberal media, just like the Obama Russiagate scandal, which President Trump was right about.
You know, if it didn't mention Trump so much, you would easily believe that was a Trump quote. They're all talking like him now.
We're going to get to that later on in the show, because that's what they were trying to talk about from the podium today. But Paula, it's also worth noting, of course, the Trump Justice Department did ask for these grand jury testimony, the grand jury materials, to be released. Continue, you were talking about what's going on there, and I think my sort of big picture question for you is, did they actually want those released, or did they know that did they go in expecting this to happen?
Well, they want all of this to die down, but that's unlikely to happen anytime soon. But after the fury following that memo where the Justice Department said they weren't going to release anything else, they had to at least make it appear that they were trying to do something else. And the idea that you're going to unseal grand jury material, that's a long shot. And they really hit one of their first roadblocks today because they're seeking the unsealing of evidence in multiple grand juries connected to Epstein investigations, both in New York and Florida. And a short time ago, a judge in Florida ruled that she would not release information related to grand juries that were convened in West Palm Beach in 2005 and 2007. So this is the earlier Epstein investigation. There were
So this is I'm trying to like button this thing on my sleeve, by the way, as we watch this. So this is an interesting one because I watched a big deep dive on the history of Epstein a week ago maybe. And it talked a lot about these trials. A lot of people don't know about them, but there were multiple settled lawsuits and criminal trials that Epstein was forced to go to because he was arrested back in 2005 and 2004, if I'm not mistaken. And this was all in Florida. And he was accused just outright of sexually assaulting and raping little girls. Like that's always been his shtick. He's always been doing that shit. And apparently, not only did the charges just get dropped, basically, just dropped, settled or whatever. I think there was a settlement. But apparently behind the scenes, I don't know how verifiable this is, but if this is true, that's kind of wild. Apparently, at some point, someone from the federal government reached out to the prosecutor or the judge, I forget which, to tell them to drop the Epstein case. Because Epstein is involved in quote-unquote intelligence. Finally got this button buttoned. That Epstein is involved in intelligence. If that is true, if that quote actually came from a federal higher-up and was said to a judge or prosecutor, that's fucking crazy. Sounds very conspiracy-like, but it also sounds really plausible. Because how the fuck did Epstein get out of that? How did he do this twice already, get away with it, and then the third time around, he goes to court, and that's the one that gets him? You know, like, also, no one knows how he actually got so wealthy. There's a lot of stuff about that. I've talked about it in depth in the past, but it's some crazy stuff. I highly recommend you check out the, who was it? I can't remember his name right now. He's the Australian guy whose house got firebombed because he criticized the gambling lobby in Australia. Why can I not remember his name right now? Someone in chat's gonna, tell me right away. Friendly Jordies, yeah. Friendly Jordies did a really good, he's done multiple really good breakdowns, but there was one video he did in particular that did, a deep dive, and it was really solid. I highly recommend you guys check that one out. It's funny, it's entertaining, and it'll catch you up on a lot of stuff. Let's continue, though.
So, of course, grand jury records in New York related to the more recent charges against Jeffrey Epstein before he died and Ghislaine Maxwell. But here in Florida, the judge said she would deny this request because the Justice Department said this stuff should be released because of extensive public interest and, quote, transparency to the American public. But the judge said, look, those don't qualify as exceptions to what is usually the standard, that grand jury material remains sealed. Now, that's not surprising. This was always a long shot. There is a slight glimmer of hope for the Justice Department in New York. Up there, the judge is still looking at this. He's given the Justice Department until next week to provide more legal arguments for why this should be unsealed. Victims and Maxwell have until August 5th.
The idea that all the other names as well should remain sealed is insane. You know, we need every name implicated in working with Jeffrey Epstein to be public. You know, why not? Otherwise you subscribe to Trump's bullshit of
there's a lot of, there's a lot of phony stuff in that world. We don't want to ruin anybody's life over some phony stuff in those Epstein files. They make a lot of things up there.
No, we deserve to know.
To file their positions on the unsealing. Maxwell is expected to oppose this. And a short time ago, that judge said that they would not allow Maxwell and her attorneys to review this grand jury material. But the headline here is, Casey, no matter what happens with these grand juries, the Justice Department will continue to face questions about why they are not releasing all of the material within their power to release. And this new Wall Street Journal report is just going to continue to amplify those questions.
And of course, Manu Raju, people who have questions include many Republicans on Capitol Hill, or at least enough of them to cause the House Speaker quite a few problems. And there's also this subpoena that just came down for Ghislaine Maxwell. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, and this is not the only subpoena that could come down here, Casey. Yes, the subpoena came down from the House Oversight Committee. That was pushed by a Republican Congressman, Tim Burchett, yesterday. Ultimately, the House Oversight Committee voted.
Even Republicans are calling for these files to come out, because keep in mind, even with a lot of these Republican congressmen, they got elected in their districts because they are Trump loyalists, and they're Trump loyalist districts. Right now, Trump loyalty is not exactly going to win you re-election to your Congress seat next time around. So right now, they are getting a lot of pressure to exert their power in Congress to force the president to allow the release of the Epstein files. And now they're following through because they want to get reelected. And they were loyal to Trump when being loyal to Trump would get them elected and reelected. Now the opposite's true. And that means there is internal pressure on Trump that was not there before. Also, I love the reflection of the building in the car window there. That's real cool.
Voted to move ahead with that today, issuing a subpoena asking for a deposition in her prison cell by August 11th. Now, that is one matter. There's a significant move afoot, though, in a separate subcommittee that's part of the larger House Oversight Committee. Republicans appear poised to defy President Trump and join with Democrats to subpoena for all of the Epstein files. That would be a hugely significant move. Now, this vote has not happened yet, but in a key...
And remember, even though the vote hasn't happened, like you said, there's a lot of Republican support for it, because there's a lot of pressure on Republicans. So it could happen. We might end up getting these Epstein files. But then again, Trump could just say no, and, you know, whatever Trump says goes.
Subcommittee that is now considering this measure. Democrats have tried to force a vote to call for a subpoena for all of the Epstein files. That is pushed by Congresswoman Summer Lee. They need one Republican to vote for it. Congresswoman Nancy Mace of South Carolina just told me moments ago she plans to vote for this measure after getting some changes that she expects to get to redact the names of the victims here. But this is what she just told me moments ago, that she plans to vote in favor of this Democratic effort to subpoena for these files.
So I will amend the motion or do my own motion, and I've requested that the ranking member amend it, so we're negotiating that right now. I think it's very important. I will be supporting it, but it's very important that we protect victims.
You'll be supporting the motion?
For sure. Yeah, and I'm going to amend the motion to protect the identity of the victims. I think that should be.
There's a lot of pressure on these politicians to get these files out. Trump's not the only one with the pressure on him.
First and foremost, as someone who's fought to protect women and kids.
And she is part of the group of Republicans who have signed on to a separate effort, the effort by Congressman Thomas Massie, to try to force a vote in the full House of Representatives to release all of the Epstein files. She supports Mr. Massie's effort on that issue. Now, on this subpoena itself, the chairman of that subcommittee, Casey, Clay Higgins, he's a Republican, told me he does expect enough Republicans would vote with
Wow, you know it's bad when even the transphobe is on board.
Democrats to move forward on calling for a subpoena here.
Good one, Joseph.
So assuming that motion is approved this afternoon, all indications are that it would be approved, then it would be the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, would have to issue that subpoena probably in a matter of days here. So a significant movement here. It just shows you the...
Get us those files. Get us those files. We want that subpoena. Get us those files.
Pressure the president is under, the administration is under, from the president's own allies to release more of the Epstein files.
And of course, you're standing out in the parking lot.
Yeah, but what about Obama? Did Obama literally made up Russiagate, so we have to send him to prison? Yeah.
Good Lord. None of us should be surprised that Trump is not only in the Epstein files, but knows he's in the Epstein files, and that just so happens to coincide with the last couple weeks of very bizarre backpedaling on the idea of releasing the Epstein files. You know, I just think that's food for thought. But hey, the most important thing I want you guys to pull from this segment is that right now, Trump is weak. And this is not a time to say, fuck you, conservatives, I told you so. There'll be plenty of time of that. There'll be plenty more time for that in the future. Now's the time to say, yeah, buddy, you're mad, aren't you? Yeah, I got some videos that talk about this. They talk about how Trump is covering up the Epstein files, and he's actually lied to you. And there's more to it than you even knew. Now is the time to play honey and not vinegar. Okay, got to go from vinegar to honey right now. Now's the time to be honey. You can be vinegar later. Anyway, folks, if you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, enjoyable, in any way, I really appreciate if you guys leave a like. It supports the channel immensely, and it's totally free on top of that. Every thumbs up and every comment down below in the description, or not in the description, in the comment section, zaps the YouTube algorithm into boosting my channel and getting it seen by more people, so I appreciate it immensely. And of course, if you want to see more from me in the future, subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload new videos in the future. And if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias, which are linked down below in the description, particularly my fan Discord, as that's the main hub of my community and fan base. And on top of that, every week on Fridays, I host gaming events, call-ins, or watch parties / movie nights in my Discord server, and that's every week on every Friday. So if you don't want to miss anything, make sure to join my Discord through the link down below. And of course, finally, if you want to support me directly, financially, help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio, then please consider donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or support me through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or buy some custom Xander Hall merchandise through the Streamlabs link down below. Regardless of how y'all support me, though, thank you so much for watching, and as always, have a good one.